Pittsburgh. Pretty good friends with Ari Lax and Chris Pakula and some other stuff, and he's typically wearing some sort of track jacket and sweatpants. All he really needs to complete the outfit is a whistle and yelling at young children.
Yep.
And perfect coach.
Pittsburgh used to be one of the great cities for American Magic.
Yes.
Back during the CMU days, players like Mike Turian, Andrew Cuno, Andrew Johnson, Aaron Forsyth, Eric Lauer, Randy Bueller, Eugene Harvey. The list goes on and on of tremendous players that came out of that region. Some of whom grew up in Western Pennsylvania. Some of whom went out to Carnegie Mellon or University of Pittsburgh for college, but it used to be one of the absolute top cities.
And people forget about Team CMU and that being a thing.
Well,
Our younger crowd.
Yep. That was a team we were associated with.
Yeah.
And I was at the only game in town.
You guys were with CMU Target, I think it was called?
Yep.
Yeah.
When Eugene Harvey went over to college at Carnegie Mellon, that's how the two teams got linked up. And we spent many years happily building C- Pro Tour decks together.
Very nice. Very nice. I just remember, coming up as a Magic player, hearing all the legendary stories about CMU, and then because I grew up in Cleveland, they would come to the Columbus PTQs, the Butler PA PTQs, which is a city outside of Pittsburgh. And so we'd cross paths and run into each other there a little bit. And sometimes they'd make the drive out to the Detroit PTQs as well. So very old school feel. And Stu Summers kind of, I would say, part of that group of players, maybe the later side of that, because he's a younger guy.
We know a lot of the same people, but our eras didn't really overlap the same way.
Yeah. But he is the coach. That's what I like to call him. The coach versus the Boz. Now this is going to be fun. Boswell number 10 on our Season 2 leaderboard. 2 buys coming into this tournament, so he's 2-1 so far in matches played with Avzon Aggro, and no surprise to see him playing this deck. So he takes a look at his opening hand. Temple of Silence and a Plains look to be the only mana, but there is a copy of Bramaz over there. He does not have very many cards. I believe 5, maybe 6.
Bramaz and 2 white producing lands on 5 cards. That feels like a keep.
Yeah, hard to mulligan it. And the boss is on 5 cards as Stu Summers is going to play a Temple of Deceit to get round number 6 underway. A Temple of Silence here from Boswell. He will scry. We'll figure out what he wants to do with that card. It's going to stay on top. We're going to head back Summers' way. Stu will draw. There is a Dismal Backwater. He'll gain a life, go up to 21. We'll head back over to the Boz. It's a Plains and a passing of the turn. Summers will draw. Land number 3 is Polluted Delta. He'll pass the turn back. Siege Rhino the draw for Boswell. There's a Mana Confluence, and here is an Anafenza.
And Stu with Dissolve plus Foul Tongue Invocation in hand. And I think Boswell's draw is just going to be a little too slow to overcome those kind of cards. If he could get under Stu there on his 5-card hand and have plays in the first couple turns of the game, maybe Dissolve and Foul Tongue Invocation will be less powerful, but with Boswell starting on turn 3, it's going to be really hard.
Here's Foul Tongue Invocation. Reveals Salumga, the Drifting Death. Stu's Dragons of choice this week, and we've seen different builds of Esper Dragons. He has 3 Dragon Lord Ochitai. That never really changes, but which Salumgar players choose to play has been kind of up in the air. Summers has 2 copies of the Drifting Death.
Yep. He has Dragon Lord in his sideboard. Usually you see some division between main deck and sideboard. It's very rare to see a list that doesn't have both of them somewhere throughout the 75, but the details are different from deck to deck.
Temple of Enlightenment was a land there for Summers, as Boswell was able to peel a 4th mana source here in Windswept Heath. I think he'll be on the hunt for a forest off of his fetch land.
I'm sort of in the camp of just playing with Dragon Lord Ojitai and Drifting Death game 1 to make your deck as good against removal spells as possible.
Sure. I think we have Siege Rhino. We do. I think we're going to have a Dissolve here from Stu. And we do. Time to scry. Summers will consult his hand. Leave that card on top. We will head back over to the coach. It's a Thoughtseize. Boswell's hand in the Fleeceman line of Bramaz and a copy of Anafenza.
Worth noting here that if Stuart leaves Fleece Main Lion, it does give the opportunity for Boswell to rip it on tap land and play 2 things. The flip side is Fleece Main Lion is probably the lowest power level card in the hand, although maybe not. Maybe Fleece Main at this point is just more powerful than Inofensa.
Oh, there goes Fleece Main Lion. So Thoughtseize is done resolving. Tempo defeats the land. Top card becomes the bottom card, and a passing of the turn. Boswell will draw. I bet he'd like to attack with those 2 creatures if they were on the battlefield. But they are simply in his hand at this point. He's curious about how many cards.
Good news for Boswell that he drew Warden of the first tree right now, because this does give him 2 spells in 1 turn.
2 spells in 1 turn is pretty nice for him now.
Very important.
See how he wants to start. He'll go with Bramaz. And now here's Warden. It looks like all that stuff's good to go. Summers will draw. Does have Dig Through Time in his hand. Only 4 cards in the graveyard, though, so it'll be an expensive Dig Through Time. And the thing about Amazon Aggro is that even though Boswell did mulligan to 5, he's off to a pretty slow start, the deck hits hard.
It does. And if Stu has to take this turn off, basically casting Dig Through Time, it looks as though he's picked up Crux of Fate, which is a great draw step for him here. But I was going to say, if he missed this turn, Boswell gets to apply quite a bit of pressure. And then even, something like Slumguard or Drifting Death, the next turn may not be enough to catch him up. As it stands, Crux of Fate bridges him to his dragon next turn, and that's going to be hard for Boswell to beat.
Indeed it will be. And Offense is the draw and the play. Excuse me, was the play. Land was the draw. Summers just considering playing the Slumguard this turn. See if he wants to take the opportunity to do that here, or maybe cast Dig Through Time instead.
Well, Stuart also picked up Dragon Lord Ojutai, so
well,
numerous good options.
That's a really good Magic card. The draw this turn for Boswell was a copy of Hero's Downfall. Here comes Anafenza. No blocks, of course. Summers doesn't have a ton of interest in trading his Ojutai for Anafenza. We'll see if Ojutai comes into the red zone or not. And it will, so the shield is down right now. Boswell will go reaching for that Hero's Downfall and hope that it resolves. We'll see if it'll be an Anticipate or if it'll be Dig Through Time.
Yeah, this is an interesting squeeze here from Stu's side of the table, because he can just say, okay, that's fine, cast Slumguard, or he can try to find some sort of answer to this. Now, he does have a lot of answers to the spell in the stack. He's got a fair number of counter spells. But if he misses, then it's a turn off. He loses his threat. He untaps. He takes another 4 points of damage. So the worst case scenario for Stu here does mean that he gets tempoed out a little bit. Probably not badly enough that he's losing the game all of a sudden, but there is a little bit of a risk with this line of play.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's found a way to keep his Dragon Lord Ojutai alive. Dig Through Time done resolving. So there that goes. The follow-up is Anticipate. And there's Dissolve. It's a little late now, though. I don't think he found a land. I think that's what he was looking for with Anticipate.
Yeah, I mean, this is a full turn off.
Yep.
I think that Boswell needs to draw quite well from this vantage point, but he's not out of this yet.
And Summers going to play a Thoughtseize now, too. He'll just see a land over there.
I mean, one of Boswell's big draws here, like Siege Rhino, he's back in this.
Llanowar Waste was the draw, however. Not one of his big draws, so just an attack for 4. And passing of the turn, Boswell not able to capitalize. There's Slumguard. That'll be the roadblock. Here's an attack. I like the attack. It's a free roll.
Might as well try.
Yeah. It got through.
The issue is there's only really 2 cards that could realistically be in Boswell's hand in that spot, Abzan Charm and Gather Courage, both of which Drifting Death's still fine against.
Boon Satyr certainly an option.
Boon Satyr, that's fair.
Which is something Boswell has played in the past.
But if it's Boone Sitter, I don't think Stu can afford to take the hit. So
Yeah, because he'd be taking 8 points of damage then.
Yeah.
Here's Dig Through Time. Here's an attack. They're making sure that this Ojutai is exiled because Anafenza is in play. So there we go, making sure all the graveyard is correct. Don't want him to exile the Ojutai to Dig Through Time for
Right.
delving when it should be exiled altogether, which it is. Now here's a Bioblight. In combination with Slumgar's trigger, that means Anafenza is off the table, and that means that Stu is probably going to stabilize now.
And he's got a handful of action left over here. Boswell flooding out pretty badly. Should be good.
Here's an attack for 3. Another land here for Boz, a warden to the first tree. And there's a copy of Slumgar Scorn, dragon in play. Quick untap and a draw. Slumgar in for 3 more points of damage. Doesn't hit all that hard, but you can't kill it.
Slow and steady.
Yep. There's a Temple of Silence. Take a look at the top card. That'll become the bottom card as we head back Summer's way. 3 more points of damage. Boswell down to 3, gets 1 more draw step. It's a Temple of Silence. It's a concession to the game. Stuart Summers going to win game of 1 here over Andrew Boswell. As for Dragons, up a game over Obs on aggro. Boswell put up a decent fight there. Mulligan to 5, a little too much to overcome.
Exactly. He mulliganed to 5 and he flooded out some. He did definitely made a game of it there for a couple turns. But after Stuart was able to stabilize the board with Slumgar, Boswell drew a couple lands in a row. No coming back.
Sideboard time. We'll take a look at the Boz and his 2 Duress, 2 Nissa World Waker, 2 Valor Stance, a Johnny Mentor of Heroes, 2 Ultimate Price, 3 Drown in Sorrow, and a Johnny Steadfast, and 2 Hunt the Hunter.
A lot to like here. I think the Planeswalkers in both copies of Ajani and the 2 copies of Nissa can come in here, as do 2 copies of Duress to supplement the 4 copies of Thoughtseize in the main.
On the other side here for Mr. Summers.
A File Telling Invocation, a Negate, a Dragon Lord's Prerogative, a Dragon Lord Slumgar, Risen Executioner, 2 copies of Bioblight, 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Ashiok, 2 Drown Sorrow, 2 Tassiger. The priorities for Stu here, lowering the curve a little bit, interacting a little bit more reliably. I think the 2 copies of Tassiger, the 2 copies of Bioblight, and the additional copy of Foul Tongue Invocation are definitely coming in. And I think that possibly Ashiok comes in, at least with 2 on the play.
Okay. Well, these players will sideboard and get ready as Boswell will be on the play here for game number 2. See if he can keep a 7-card hand and really get to work, as the boss is known to do with Obs on aggro. We will talk about our Season 3 schedule here in the Open Series. It'll be here before you know it. And we've talked about our Modern Grand Prix in Charlotte a little bit earlier today, and we'll talk about it over the course of this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we already run that ad, giving you a lot of information. We'll be talking about Charlotte periodically through the broadcast this weekend. After that, we go to Indianapolis for a Standard Open Series, back to Baltimore, to Chicago, July 18th and 19th for the first time in Open Series history, then to Richmond for a Standard Open Series, Legacy back in DC, Standard Grand Prix in London, August 14th through 16th, a Modern Open Series back in Charlotte, August 22nd and 23rd, and then the Season 3 Invitational in the great state of Jersey. Standard and Legacy is the invitational formats with a 2-day, $20,000 Standard Open Series. Meet you and Matthias on the booth.
The great state of New Jersey, you said.
The great state of New Jersey.
What's the slogan?
Liberty and prosperity.
Very nice. Very nice. I don't know Ohio's. It's very unclear, but Ohio's great too. It's probably Cleveland Rocks.
Probably not.
No? You don't think I'm right about that? As we were showing off the bee play mat, some have come up with a reason with the bear and the hive and why the bee existed. Thoughts are here from Patriot Fan 09, which implies he's probably a New England Patriots fan, which
Yeah, boo to you.
insufferable. Clearly the grizzly bear attacked into a hornet nest and it made a 1/1 bee.
Okay.
Makes sense.
usually we're sort of just pulling from nature tropes rather than trying to draw the parallels to Magic cards.
But that's
I like
good
the
thought process.
I like the storytelling certainly, but I think that one's pretty simple. Bear went looking for some honey. Found some honey. Did also found some bees.
Yep.
And then you just got to hash that out.
Dude, I'm curious if bears and bees get into a fight, like who wins?
On a one-on-one basis, I would take the bear, I think. But the bees scale up in a way that bears don't.
They do. So if there's a swarm of bees.
Right, I don't know what the line is where the bees are favored. The 14 million bees that tipped over in Washington a couple weeks ago, for example, I would take the bees.
I would take the bees there too. Take the bees. Though I think it would be very impressive if the bear did win.
Oh, that would be great.
I would want to watch a bear defeat 14 million bees in a fight. In which case, I would never mess with a bear. Not to say that I would now, but that would solidify it.
Yeah. We had a bear evacuation at my elementary school once, and they're pretty scary up close. So they just wandered into the playground. We just had to go.
They're just bears where you grew up?
Because I grew up in a pretty rural spot, and I don't know what the bee to bear ratio is for a fair fight, but bear to small children ratio, it's pretty good for the bear. You need to have a lot of kids before the kids are favored, and if the kids have morale, if they have fear, which we did, the matchup gets even better for the bear.
It feels very 90-10
Yeah,
in favor of the bear.
It's tough. You got to get pretty lucky.
Yep. No mulligans. There.
Right.
No mulligans. Here's a Rashasha Death Dealer. I can only imagine what is the first kid who sees the bear at the playground. So that's probably not supposed to be here.
Right. There were two of them, actually.
Of course there were. They travel in packs. Yeah. Really, really nice. There is a polluted delta and a passing of the turn. Boswell off to a better start this game, that's for sure.
7-card hand had a thing to do on turn 2. This is a much better recipe.
In comes the Death Dealer. No pump. Plains. Has two options for a follow-up. Has Bermaz, then Offenza. What makes this kind of interesting for Boswell is Slumgar Scorn, the Force Spike.
Yep.
If he's supposed to just say, I don't care, just cast my spell into it.
He's got Duress and Thoughtseize. He could also go down that road, too, if he felt like it.
He's going to play Anafenza, it looks like. Yep. Summers can't sacrifice that fetch land fast enough. Perhaps he's going to spike him real good.
The thing is, I typically like playing into Slumgar's Scorn in spots like this because it's not like Daze. At some point, it does become a hard counterspell. In fact, it might be a hard counterspell right now. So there's no point in setting your development back a bunch of turns to play around this card because there's a reasonable chance it's just counterspell anyway.
There's the Scorn. There's a Haven of the Spirit Dragon. Pass the turn back over to Boswell. Boswell will draw. Looks like he picked up a copy of Duress. The tough thing here for Andrew is that he would like to have 4 mana so he can play discard spell and then a threat. He wants to do both in the same turn. He can't do that yet. So now the question is, okay, am I supposed to play a threat this turn? Or am I supposed to leave with a discard spell? Or am I supposed to just do nothing? Because this is the backbreaker, because now there's a Foul Tongue Invocation.
Well, this would have been problematic for Boswell regardless. I think that he's getting to a spot now where, he's running low on threats, and if he just runs his 2 remaining threats in hand into a curve of removal or counter spells, he's going to have very little left over, and those discard spells aren't going to help very much. So I think he kind of needs to take this turn. I think there was an argument last turn to maybe cast the discard spells. I think this turn he definitely has to do it.
The hand here for Summers, 2 Dragonlord Ojutai, 2 Heroes Downfall, and a Dismal Backwater. And it looks like Boswell's going to select a Hero's Downfall with the Duress because he can't take anything else. And now he's got a Thoughtseize. He actually has another Duress, excuse me. And then he does have a Thoughtseize too, but he's not going to cast that Thoughtseize. So both Heroes Downfalls are gone. Summers is going to play his Dismal Backwater very quickly, gain a life. We're going to go back to the Boss. The Boss will draw. Is it a 4th land? It's a Nissa. This is a Bermaz. Pass the turn back. Has Summers drawn his 5th land yet for his Dragon Lord Ojutai? He has, but it enters the battlefield tapped.
That's big for Boswell because the way he's playing this game, he really wants land number 4 next turn, but he is was hoping there that Stuart would not curve directly into Dragon Lord Ojutai.
He didn't draw land number 4. He's drawn Siege Rhino number 2. In for 4. We'll have a cat token out there in just a moment, but there's the Thoughtseize. Here's Summer's hand. Bunch of dragons. 2 Ojutai. 1 Drifting Death. Yikes. See, and that's what makes it such a different control deck, because when you're playing against like blue-black control, it's like, okay, you know, they've got what they've got, probably some sort of reactive removal spell, but Stu can just flip the script and just say, all right, play Dragon Lord Ojutai, go.
Exactly. You aren't leaning exactly on the 1 removal spell, and it's so important too, and so many people bring in sideboard cards like, you know, they're trying to protect their creatures with some sort of prevent all damage or make an indestructible effect. Maybe they have things like negate. So having some of your game plan be creatures can be very potent.
Fleecebane Lion was the draw for Boswell. Still can't find land number 4 or 5, as his hand is 2 Siege Rhinos and a Nissa World Waker.
But Stu may not be in a position to go on the offensive. It looks like he feels comfortable enough, but there is some risk here right now. Dragon Lord Ojutai was holding down the fort, so Stu's going to have to come up with a removal spell or another big dragon to block with.
Yeah, Stu disagrees with you. He's getting into the red zone. 16-8.
Coach would appreciate the effort.
Indeed.
He's playing hard right now.
That's right. That's just good coaching.
Yeah.
Here's a Bile Blight.
You don't always play well, but you can always play hard. That's what Coach would say.
It's a nice coachism. I was going to say the best defense is a good offense, which it very clearly is right now for Summers.
Stu's also just kind of damage raising. Boswell's taking so much damage off of Mana Confluence and his discard spells here that he's behind in the damage race, believe it or not.
Here's Dig Through Time.
I think that as I get older, honestly, as I get older, I think coaching youth athletics is going to be a thing for me.
You ever seen the movie Kicking and Screaming?
No.
The Will Ferrell movie?
No.
Yeah, that would be me as a coach. I would just yell at the kids the entire time.
I don't think that's the point.
It's not the point. It's not. No one said that's the point. That's just what I would do.
Yeah.
Because I just know who I am. Slumgar Scorn. One of the 2 cards taken off of Dig Through Time. In comes Ojutai again. The best defense is a good offense, and Crux of Fate is really good right now.
This game was kind of in the balance here before Crux of Fate showed up, but this is going to be too much.
Yeah. Summers just shrugged his shoulders, says, I'm going to kill all your stuff, and Boswell's going to extend the hands. Stu Summers going to win this match here over Andrew Boswell. 2-0. Esper Dragons, a very popular deck this weekend. We've got at least one player 5-1 with it. It's the coach.
Yeah, Boswell never